So yesterday on the show, we talked about how Canada is making moves towards recognizing Palestine officially as a state. And while President Trump is reluctant to follow suit, progressives in Congress, led by Democratic Representative Khanna, are pushing for the US to also recognize a Palestinian state. So Cenk, this document was leaked, so they weren't ready to go public with this just yet, but it does feel very encouraging, like a step in the right direction. What do you think?
Oh my God, finally, we have a hero. And so look, I'm not saying it lightly. Ro Khanna has come on this show and we've brawled, and you can go and look it up, okay? When we disagree, we fight over things, but he comes back, and I respect him for that. We've talked about that before. But to start a movement to recognize a Palestinian state, that is the most out of bounds, unacceptable thing you could do in Washington. So we got a rebel on our hands. I mean, that never happens in Washington, never. There's a lot of fake rebels, but no one who would dare to fight against AIPAC and the might of Israel. So the fact that Ro Khanna is doing that, it shows tremendous leadership and someone who's finally authentic, someone who finally means it. I think this story is absolutely huge, and he's got 8 people with him already and maybe more on the way, so let's tell you all about it.
9 people actually, and yes, maybe more on the way. So here is what the draft document says, according to Jewish Insider, and this is, again, it was leaked. It says, "We are writing to request that the United States officially recognize a Palestinian state as this tragic moment was highlighted for the world, the long overdue need to recognize Palestinian self-determination." A draft version of the letter obtained by Jewish Insider reads, "Just as the lives of Palestinians must be immediately protected, so too must their rights as a people and nation urgently be acknowledged and upheld. It has long been acknowledged by much of the international community and previous US administrations of both major political parties that a Palestinian state recognized as a full and equal member of the community of nations is necessary to fulfill the legitimate national rights of the Palestinian people and ensure the state of Israel's survival as the democratic homeland of the Jewish people. A viable Palestinian state will need to fully recognize Israel and adopt a framework to guarantee Israel's security, including the disarmament of and relinquishing of power by Hamas in order to be broadly embraced by the community of nations. We will need to work closely with the Palestinian people, the Palestinian Authority, our Arab allies, and Israel to make this feasible." So as Cenk mentioned, as of yesterday, the letter was signed by 9 other Congresspeople, all Democrats, including Greg Cesar, Lloyd Doggett, Veronica Escobar, Maxwell Frost, Al Green, Jared Huffman, Pramila Jayapal, Mark Pocan, and Bonnie Watson Coleman. A lot of Texans there. Khanna he's only just begun outreach with this letter this week, so more will hopefully sign on to it. And the plan was not to send this to the UN General Assembly until September. In a statement to Jewish Insider, this is what Khanna had to say about the leaked document. He said, "This is the moment for the United States to officially recognize a Palestinian state. All 22 states in the Arab League this week called for a non-Hamas Palestinian state that recognizes Israel." And in a memo to his colleagues, Khanna wrote this: "As the devastating toll of the war in Gaza continues to mount, this tragic moment has underscored the urgent need to acknowledge Palestinian self-determination and take meaningful steps toward a just and lasting resolution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict." Meanwhile, Secretary of State Marco Rubio is insulting the intelligence of those supporting Palestinian statehood, saying, "At the end of the day, Hamas is sitting there saying, we're winning the PR war. We've got all these countries lining up on our side of this argument." And in an interview with Fox News Thursday, he said this: "The 140 heads of state threatening to recognize, or ones that have already recognized a Palestinian state, can't even tell you where this Palestinian state is." Okay. If there are 140 heads of state around the world that agree on one thing and the United States is within the minority here, then maybe not a great idea to insult them. And the fact that he's assuming people can't tell you where Palestine is on a map. I don't know who he thinks he's dealing with, but it's not the MAGA base anymore. So Jackson, this is very encouraging. I don't know how far it's gonna go. Hopefully he will get more names to sign on to this. I know that there are probably some names that were not mentioned that people were hoping would have been mentioned, but again, that's only 10 so far. And he was giving himself until September. So what do you make of this? And are you hopeful that maybe it's not going to go anywhere, but maybe it's moving in the right direction?
Well, I think that what I'm mostly hopeful for is just how there's some tides changing, because like this, for instance, is not just the right thing morally, but it's also the correct way to respond to this politically. You know, you look at the polling and you're seeing that the Democratic base, whether it's liberals or progressives, are pretty fed up and finished with both Netanyahu and Israel's campaign against Palestinians. Also, Democrats are at pretty historic low polling right now, a direct reflection of people's dissatisfaction with the general weak approach, the milquetoast approach that they have of constantly capitulating. You hear this on the liberal outlets like Pod Save America, the I've Had It podcast with those two ladies. People are railing against them all the time. And so this is some of how you address that. So this goes beyond just recognizing Palestine as a state. This goes further into progressive policies, whether that's, if you're not pushing for universal health care, at least a public option. You know, all the private health insurance companies, they still can make plenty of money with a public option. And also, this is some of what we saw with Kamala's campaign and when she started to go down, when she was talking about things like free home care, expanded Medicaid, and things like that. People really, that strikes a nerve in what people need. So again, in addition to this being the right thing morally, this is really what the Democratic establishment needs to be doing politically to get more people on their side, especially as we just saw in the story before this. We got people like Sean Strickland and all types of right wingers who are dissatisfied with AIPAC's influence and control over our government. So I think that, somebody's got to be the first one to jump into the deep end. So I think that this can help encourage at least the Democratic Party to further step in that right direction. But it's incumbent on us, the voters, to get better, more progressive politicians in office at the end of the day.
Yeah. So let me jump in with a bunch of stuff. So first of all, on Marco Rubio, that guy's Israel first through and through. He's every single time. Oh, how dare you challenge our beloved Israel? I can't believe the whole world is against them. You're all hate Jews. You're all racist and bigoted. Oh my God, anti-Semites. Oh, the Democrats and Khanna. How dare you not bow your head to Israel? Do you know how much money they've given me? Yeah, Marco, we do. AIPAC has given Marco Rubio a ton of money throughout his career. In fact, Taylor, look that up for me and we'll give the exact number in a minute. We got a poll here. I'm curious what you guys think. So the show's live 6 p.m. every day, Monday through Friday. We're crazy. We do a 2-hour show, so you can catch it anytime between 6 and 8. So, and you're part of the show when you do it. So live chat's part of it. So should the US recognize the state of Palestine? I hope this is a blowout, okay? But it's for all decent people, this is the most obvious thing in the world. I mean, there's two deeply ironic things that Israel uses as propaganda to try to prevent a Palestinian state. So this is on TYT.com. 75 to 25. Wow, really? Now I know this is a small number of votes, right? But I encourage people to keep voting. I can't understand any reason why we wouldn't have recognize Palestine as a state. So number one, Israel's propaganda is, no, the Palestinians will always attack Israel, so we can't let them have a state because then they might have a military, they might have guns, they might have weapons, and then they will obviously try to murder all the Jews like we're doing to them. I mean, they're the dangerous savages, right? Well, that's a deeply racist point. They're saying the Palestinians are the only people on planet Earth who cannot govern themselves. That the minute they have sovereignty, they will use it to try to murder everyone around them. That does kind of describe Israel right now, as they've attacked 5 neighbors, plus absolutely leveled Gaza, plus starving the Gazans, plus killing endlessly in the West Bank. But even so, even with the factual basis for it, I would never be that racist and say the Israelis can't govern themselves. But the Israelis are that racist, and they say, no, the Palestinians are so beneath us, they're so inferior, they should never govern themselves. And by the way, this is not hyperbole, they voted on it. And this current Israeli government voted that Palestine should never exist as a state. Okay, now that leads us to the second piece of propaganda. They say, oh, we can't let the Palestinians exist because it says in some charter somewhere, in some theory and hypothetical part of the multiverse, that if the Palestinians had infinite power, the extremists that are in power now would still be in power, which is not at all true, okay? But if the Palestinians had power, they would prevent Israel from existing. Okay, now 2 absurdities about that. Number 1, Israel is almost the safest country in the whole world. They have nukes, they have a military that is larger than the rest of the countries combined near them, and they have Iron Dome. They're the only country that has Iron Dome. They're as safe as, they're as dug in as they could possibly be. Good, I don't want them going anywhere. But then they think, oh my God, we're in existential danger, we're all gonna die. No, you're not, no, you're not. You're one of the biggest militaristic colonial empires in the world. You have a giant military, you have nukes, you're not going anywhere. On the other hand, it's you guys that are preventing Palestine from existing. And every dumbass in American media, every crook that's an American politician goes, oh, I'm so worried about Israel existing. They probably laugh their ass off. They probably go off camera and go like, Palestine doesn't even exist and Israel's preventing it. But we're pretending the real problem is the Palestinians not allowing Israel to exist. We tricked the American people. Okay, well, I'm sick of you tricking the American people. No, I love what Khanna is doing. And guys, you have no idea how courageous it is. Because you think, most of you, if you're good, decent, moral people, you think this is obvious. Of course the Palestinians should have a state, right? Why are they the only country that's not allowed to have a state? But in Washington, the reason why this is, other than the fact that AIPAC runs the entire place and they will put a price on your head, and they're spending already $2 million against Tom Massey, who's a Republican. They already spent over $4 million on the Cori Bush, Jamal Bowman, the Nina Turner, and the Andy Levin races, right? And they won every one of those races. They come in and they go, we're gonna bribe our way to victory. You better not oppose Israel. And Khanna and these other 9 are like, no, we're gonna take that risk. Already huge courage. But the second thing is, it puts other Democrats on the line. Now, you gotta say, hey, wait, are you for the Palestinians? Or you're but you actually work for AIPAC in Israel. So which one is it? And Democrats, a lot of Democrats don't want to answer that question. So the fact that they're asking them that question is super brave. Again, for us, it might seem normal, but in the Washington culture, this is thermonuclear. Like, you're gonna make us tell the American people whether we're for the genocide or these poor Palestinians? How dare you, that would embarrass me. I wanna take millions of dollars from AIPAC and not get caught. And now because of this, I might get caught. Goddamn right you might get caught. I love it, okay? So thank you to Khanna for leadership and courage on this. Always credit where credit is due, and massive credit here. And it doesn't matter if you're a right winger who believes in getting rid of the AIPAC money like so many of them do now, and you like Tom Massey, and it doesn't matter if you're left and like Khanna on the other issues. On this issue, we should all be united. There is no reason for this foreign government to run our government. And obviously they do, because this is such a giant story. They're like, oh my God, 10 congressmen have opposed Israel out of 535 people in Congress. And they're like, Washington's horrified by it. Just the mere fact of saying the Palestinians are just as human as anyone else, and of course they should have sovereignty and an independent state. That is an unthinkable thought in deeply occupied territory of Washington, D.C.
Yeah, I just want to say real quickly, Marco Rubio mentioning the PR war is kind of ridiculous, because Benjamin Netanyahu is literally going on podcasts right now, spreading propaganda. He's making claims about aid getting to Gaza, or rather not getting into Gaza, that his claims are not supported by any international authority. Everyone else, including Israel in the past, have said that they're the ones who are preventing aid from getting into Gaza. And I just want to say real quickly, I said this on Indisputable earlier this week, but I just want to remind our viewers that famine, like what we're seeing in Gaza right now, does not just happen It is a deliberate weapon of colonization, of genocide, of exploitation, and people can see what's happening for themselves and they can see that it is horrific. And I love that this is getting spoken about, not just with the Democrats and the progressives, but that it's happening on both sides, that people can see that the United States is really just kind of a pawn for Israel, this tiny country thousands of miles away on a different continent in the Middle East, and they're pulling our strings. It is embarrassing and it is inhumane. And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah,
but we gotta get a break.
Hold on. Before we go, I want to give you the number that I promised you. Marco Rubio has taken $1,013,563 from AIPAC. And that's just from AIPAC. That doesn't include Miriam Adelson, Paul Singer, and all the other people who bribe individually on a regular basis all of our politicians. Yes, they are legalized bribes, but they're bribes nonetheless. They are money that they give to people like Marco Rubio, and they say, hey, you will not work for America. You will work for Israel. And Rubio goes, oh, of course, sir. Every country is wrong. America's wrong. American Republicans are wrong. Democrats are wrong. Only Israel is right. I'm the American Secretary of State. And morons in mainstream media will tell you, oh no, you can't say that. No, Marco Rubio is not affected by $1 million. Come on. Mainstream media is the worst of the worst. What a bunch of preposterous liars. Obviously, Marco Rubio works for Israel because they gave him $1 million. The rest of us all know that because we didn't escape from a mental asylum and wind up on CNN's set. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.